new season of 1,000 Pound Sisters is finally here, and I'm so excited because it looks like it's going to be an eventful season, and I'm here for it. So let's talk about this last episode. So Tammy was looking great. They did a comparison of how she looked at the beginning of last season versus how she looks this season. And she's lost like the size of a whole person. She's lost at least a couple 100 pounds. And Tammy is preparing to leave the weight loss facility after being there for 14 long months. But it's kind of bittersweet because she may be leaving Kayla behind because she had to get her trach removed before they would approve her to leave. And Caleb has made no progress with his weight loss. He still has his trach in. So Caleb has an upcoming doctor's appointment to see if he can get his trach out and leave with Tammy when she leaves the facility. And right now, Tammy and Caleb are sharing a room at the facility. And due to their sizes, they're not allowed to share a bed due to safety reasons. So they have to sleep in separate beds. But they're in the same room, so they spend a lot of time with each other. So it's going to be a huge adjustment if Tammy ends up leaving without Caleb. So Tammy was telling Caleb that she really hopes he can leave with her. And Caleb was like, you know, if you end up leaving and I can't and you leave me behind, I'll understand. And it almost kind of seemed like he was hoping she'd be like, oh no, baby, don't worry. If you don't leave, I'm going to stay here too. But Tammy was like, look, I've seen too much of my life pass me by. I've missed out on so many different things like Gage and Glenn's birthday parties and family get-togethers because here she is just stuck at rehab all the time. So she wants to get out and finally live life, and she doesn't want to be held back, and Caleb is understanding about that. Then they show Caleb crying to the producers, saying that Tammy is the best thing that has ever happened to him in his whole life. And he was just so emotional. And I'm just so glad that him and Tammy were able to meet each other, even though they didn't stay together when he did pass away. At least he was able to experience some of the best times of his life, like he said, with Tammy. So it's like they met at the perfect time. So then we get to catch up with Amy and Michael, and they went to go take their two boys to take family pictures. Glenn is currently 6 months old and Gage is 2 years old. And the whole time the boys are just running all over the place, and the only person you see chasing them around is Amy. So things really haven't changed much since last season, and Michael is just sitting there like staring off to space as Amy's about to have a heart attack because she's so overwhelmed. And Amy admits that after having her second child, it started to raise more issues in her marriage because Michael was just helping less and less, and Amy had to adjust to juggling two boys by herself. So not only that, but Amy's stressing out because she's already having a hard enough time with her two kids, and now she's stressed out because Tammy's coming home. And in the past, Amy was the one that always had to step up the plate to take care of Tammy, and she feels like she already can barely handle what she's got going on right now. And I feel like Tammy's going to be a lot more self-sufficient this time. She can definitely do more for herself, like cook, get her own clothes out, and maybe even take a bath by herself. But I mean, I still feel like there'll be a few small things she's going to need help with, but it's not going to be nothing like it was last time. At least they don't have to have Michael and Amy pushing her around on the wheelchair and struggling for dear life. And I was always scared that the wheelchair was going to like roll backwards and Michael was just going to be flat like a pancake. I don't think Michael understands all the stress that comes along with juggling two kids, because it just seems like when they start crying and getting stressed out, it's like he just checks out and he just looks the other way and pretends it's not happening or like he sees it. It just seems like Amy just wanted to give Gage a brother so bad, and I feel like she didn't really fully think through, like, hey, he's not helping with the first kid, bring another one in the picture, probably isn't going to make him help anymore either. And as many times as Amy has cried about being overwhelmed, you would think that Michael would have stepped up to the plate by now to shoot, Michael helped with Tammy more than he helped with his own children. And meanwhile, Amanda, Chris, and a few other family members, they all went over to Amanda's old house. So Amanda ended up moving out of her house into another one, and she wanted to keep that house and her family, so she decided to let Tammy move into it. And I think that's a great idea, especially with the fact that Tammy was robbed while she was at rehab, because I would be scared going back to that same house. I'd be getting robbed while I was there. And too many people knew they lived there, because back in the day before Amy had a P.O. box, she decided to share her home address with her fans on YouTube, and people were sending them all kinds of gifts. But not only that, people were like, okay, she's asking for gifts to be mailed, so I'm just going to go show up on her doorstep with some gifts and try to give me a picture and autograph while I'm at it. And Tammy and Amy were constantly complaining on social media because they had all these unwanted visitors of people showing up unannounced. And you can't be going real life on these people and just popping up at their address, because if you do that to the wrong person, you'll F around and you'll find out. So Tammy's brother Chris took the initiative, and he decided to buy Tammy a ramp for the house she's about to move into. And he's stressed out because we know how traumatized Tammy is when it comes to ramps in the past. Like that time when they went on that vacation to that lake house, and Tammy refused to even get out of the van because she was so scared of the ramp. So while Chris was outside setting up the ramp, Amanda announced that her and Misty have been seeing Dr. Smith, and they have one more appointment before they find out if they're going to get weight loss surgery. And they're the only ones left in the family to get the surgery. Amanda's had the surgery before, so she's not going to have the full-on surgery. She's just looking to get a revision, and she just has to meet her weight loss goals. And Misty, all she has to do is just pass her nicotine screening, and then they get approved. And Chris has been continuing to shed the pounds, and he is due for an upcoming doctor's appointment, and he's going to find out if he's going to get approved for skin removal surgery. And so then we get to catch back up with Tammy, and the big day is finally here for Tammy to get out of rehab. And unfortunately, she finds out that Caleb's not going to be able to get his trach out, so she's going to have to leave him behind. So she says goodbye to him and all the staff, and it was so sweet because she's literally walking out, and all the nurses and residents were lined up for her. And when she's walking out, literally so many people were breaking down crying. So you could really tell that Tammy really had an impact on a lot of the people there. And even a few of the residents said that they looked at Tammy as an inspiration. And I'm just so damn proud of Tammy. For real though, I used to drag her hard like a couple seasons ago, and I thought she just was never going to be mentally strong enough to get where she is now. I thought she was not going to be able to give up her love for food, and in the past, just Tammy didn't seem like she loved herself, and the way she was feeling about herself, she was constantly projecting onto others and just snapping out on everybody over the stupidest little things, and she just seemed like a little negative Nancy. And once Tammy started to love herself, she finally was able to do what she needed to do and take care of business, and I love that for her. I feel like one of the big reasons Tammy fell in love with Caleb and why she's been so patient with him is because I feel like she sees a lot of her old stubborn self in Caleb. And so Tammy said goodbye to everybody. She got in Chris and his wife's van, and she was freaking out because she's actually able to sit in a car seat for once. And this is like a first timer for her in a hot minute, because usually they have to fold all the seats down in the back for her to sit on the floor, or they gotta just take the car seats out completely. So Tammy gets back to the house, and she was able to make it up the ramp, thank God. So you know when somebody gets like a new fancy watch, and all of a sudden they constantly use that arm and want to make sure they let everybody around them know that they got that watch. Like, it kind of reminds me of Derek from Love After Lockup when he had that Cartier watch. But that's how exactly Tammy was when it came to her neck. She had her shoulders back, her neck popping out. She was wanting somebody to ask her about her trach that was no longer there. And after nobody noticed or said anything, Tammy was like, okay, you guys, nobody noticed, my trach is out. And they're like, oh my gosh, congrats, girl. And then they were giving Tammy a whole hard time because now she's just got that hole in her neck. And they're joking around and messing with Amy. And they're like, Amy, put your finger in it, mess with it. And Amy was disgusted. You could tell she wasn't even feeling it. She refused to even look at Tammy's hole. That's how much it bothered her. So, since Amy really wasn't saying anything, Amanda was like, oh yeah, she can't see it because she's looking at Chris. And that was a dig at Amy because she's cross-eyed since she had one eye facing the direction of Chris. And Amy got so upset. She started breaking down and she told the producers that that's her biggest insecurity because she feels like she'll never be beautiful because she has a cross-eye. So Amy was breaking down and it threw the whole family off because usually they joke around with each other like this and they're just trying to have fun. So Amy went into Tammy's living room and she's breaking down saying she would never make fun of somebody like that. And at that time, I feel like Amanda should have just gave her a big hug and said, I'm sorry, and be like, you know what, it was just a joke, I'm sorry, I won't say anything about your eye anymore. But instead, Amanda got super defensive and she continued to fight with Amy because she felt like Amy was being a hypocrite because there's been plenty of times that Amy's took digs at Amanda and other family members. And, you know, I get scared about sharing video clips on YouTube because I always get claimed with copyright. But I know I could probably make at least a couple different compilations of Amy making jokes like that to other family members. I know there's numerous times where she's made fun of other people's weight, and but Amanda didn't react the right way, just blowing up on her even more, because that's the last thing you want to do to somebody who's upset and crying. I don't feel like Amanda meant any harm with it. She was just joking around because that seems how the whole family's sense of humor is, like throwing jabs at each other and just laughing it off. So Amy was hurt, and when she tried to express why she was hurt, Amanda blew up on her even more and told her to shut up. And then Amy was like, you know what, I'm not trying to get out of character. Let me go ahead and grab my kids and my husband, and we're going to get out of here. And I hate to say this. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose anybody. But I feel like Amy might be going through a little bit of postpartum depression because she has a lot of signs. She has her emotions all over the place. She cries a lot. She has trouble sleeping. She just gave birth 6 months ago, so she's at the prime time when people get it. So I don't think it would hurt to look into it. And I know that Amy has always been a crier, but it just seems like it's getting worse over time. I just wish they were willing to communicate and put their differences aside for the sake of Tammy, because this day should be about Tammy and all the progress she's made. This is a big deal. She's finally made it home. She got her surgery. She got her trach out. And it seems like everybody else is making it about themselves. And she's only been at the house for literally minutes before all this drama unfolded. And this is the first time she's seeing her family since the wedding. This day should be about Tammy, but Amy and Amanda got too emotional. And I know when you get super emotional, it can be hard to think straight. So it seemed like Amy just grabbed her boys and decided to leave. And that's the last thing Tammy needs right now, is a bunch of drama all the time, because she's still fragile and vulnerable. Like, she just came home from this rehab facility. And in the past, every time she came home from the rehab or hospital, she ended up backsliding and gaining all her weight back. So I think right now more than ever, they need to be careful, making sure things are just as peaceful as possible while she's still getting adjusted and just bringing positive vibes only. The last thing we want to see is Tammy get so stressed out over somebody else's BS that she decides to turn back to what comforts her, and that's food, especially now that she's not in rehab where they're not going to be controlling her portions anymore, and that's going to be all on Tammy. Next week, it looks like it's going to be an explosive episode because Amy finally reaches her breaking point and she blows up on Michael for not helping, and she asked Michael for her debit card back and he refused. So she's like, get in my damn house. And he's like, no. And Amanda got in his face and he's like, give her money and get out of her damn house. And he was going head to head, toe to toe with Amanda and scream, make me. And Tammy's in the background calling the police. I'm pretty sure this was the incident where Amy was trying to allege Michael put hands on her, but I'm not 100% for certain. But those charges were later dropped after Amy decided to drop them. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Check out my lashes and cosmetics at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.